Hello, how are you? My name is Oluwole Godwin and welcome to MOJ Economics. Today we shall be continuing our discussion on consumer and producer surplus. But here we shall be doing some calculations using demand function, a demand function, a supply function, and a tax imposition on consumers. Okay, to find our consumer surplus, producer surplus, and what have you. We are also going to talk about a new concept in this video, which is deadweight losses. So we'll be looking at how we calculate deadweight losses and the implication of a deadweight loss in a particular market. So let's begin. QD is equal to this, 60 minus 2p, QS is equal to this, and tax on consumers is equal to 10. So for us to get the equilibrium, we need to do something like this. So QD at equilibrium, QD, which is the demand function, is equal to the supply function and is equal to Q star. So henceforth we'll be using Q star. So this is 60 minus 2p. Call this equation 1 and we call this equation 2. 60 minus 2p equals 3p minus 40. When you collect like terms, we have 60 plus 40 equals 3p plus 2p. So 100 equals 5p. We divide both sides by 5, and then our p will give us 20. Okay, so now this p is the price at equilibrium. We may now decide to insert our p into the demand function or the supply function, and we are still going to get the same answer. Okay, for example, so let's say substitute p star equals 20 in equation 1 and 2. So this is equation 1. So we just have QD equals 60 minus 2 into brackets 20, and then QD is equal to 60 minus 40. So QD now is 20. So let's try our supply function out. QS is equal to 3 into bracket 20, then minus 40. So QS equals 60 minus 40, and then QS equals 20. Good. So our quantity demand our quantity demand is equal to our quantity supplied. Okay, so which is what was stated here. Okay, 20, 20. We now plot our graph. So we have this graph 0, and this is quantity, this is price. So this is our initial supply function, upward sloping. Supply curve rather is our initial demand curve, downward sloping as usual. So at equilibrium, okay, this is 20 and this is 20. So we name this equilibrium E. Okay, so for us to calculate, all of these represent our consumer surplus. For us to calculate this surplus, we need to know the height of this triangle and the base of the triangle. So we know the base already to be different between 0 and 20, which is what is here. But we don't know our height because we don't know what this price is. The same thing goes for the supply curve. Okay, we have the base ready, but we do not know our height because we need a value here. Now, the value here is simply the value for the price, okay, when quantity is 0. Okay, we are talking about the price that suppliers will be willing to collect by producing nothing. Alright, and this will represent the price that the consumers will be willing to pay, okay, when Q is when quantity is 0. Okay, so it may not have big meanings like that, okay, but then they are just vertical intercept. So this is the vertical intercept for the demand function. This is the vertical intercept. This is the vertical intercept for the supply function. So how do we do that? First, the demand function. So what we just say is Q is 0 here. Okay, so let's find our P. When Q D equals 0, so we have 0 equals 60 minus 2p. So we have 2p equals 60 and then p equals 30. Okay, so when our so that's what we have. Then we do the same thing for the supply function. So okay, let me just write that here. Okay, when QS equals 0, so we have 0 into bracket 3p minus 40. Okay, so we have 3p equals 40, and then we have p to be 13.33. So this place is 30. So we may just approximate that to give us 13. Okay, so the price of 13 is just fine. All right, so with this we may now calculate our consumer surplus and our producer surplus. Okay, consumer surplus is going to be, okay, let's name this point point A. So it's going to be the area of triangle DEA. Okay, and our producer surplus is going to be the area of the triangle SEA. Good. So our consumer surplus is equal to area of triangle DEA. Okay, so our CS now, area of the triangle is half. Base, what's our base? Our base is simply here, which will bring it here. Okay, the distance between this and this is 20 minus 0, and our height is simply 30 minus 20. 30 minus 20. So CS is equal to half into bracket 20 and into bracket 10. So our consumer surplus equals 100. Okay, so our producer surplus now is area of triangle SEA. So which is equal to half. The base is the same, okay, 20 minus 0. And then what is the height? The height is simply 20 minus 13 to give us this portion of the triangle, 20 minus 13. So we have half into bracket 20 and into bracket 7. Okay, so our PS is equal to 70. Okay, so that's in such a way that our total surplus is 100 plus 70 and equals 170. Okay, so before tax imposition or whatever, so this is our consumer surplus, the whole of this 100, and this is our producer surplus, the whole of this. So what happens when tax is imposed on consumers? So when tax is imposed on consumers, it is an increment. It acts as an increment in the price that consumers pay. Okay, consumers now have to pay more for the goods they consume. But then, according to the law of demand, an increase in the price of a commodity will lead to what? A reduction in the quantity demanded of that commodity. So in this case, it was not the price of the commodity that changed directly. It was something else that made it change, which is the tax. Okay, and tax is not on this graph. Okay, so but then the quantity is going to fall because of the basic understanding of the law of demand. So what we just do is we have a fall in quantity. Okay, that is not as a result of anything that is on this graph, and in that case, that makes us to have an inward shift. An inward shift of the demand curve. So this is D1. Okay, so this comes in here, which is D plus tax. The demand curve, initial demand curve plus tax. So what happens? We discover that we'll be having a new equilibrium quantity. Okay, so this is the price that our producers are receiving now because the new curve is intersecting the initial supply curve here. Then we trace this to the initial demand curve. And this represents the price, okay, that the consumers of this commodity, okay, would be paying as a result of the tax imposition. So we need to get this point and we need to get this point. So what happens? Because tax is imposed on consumers, we are going to make that to reflect in the demand function, in the initial demand function. So we have this. Okay, so we have this. QD, okay, equals 60 minus 2, then into bracket there's P here, plus the tax, 10, okay, because we have a higher price now that consumers are to be paying. So we have QD equals 60 minus 2P and minus 20. So QD, so let's name this QDT, okay, quantity demanded after tax imposition. Okay, so this is 40 minus 2P. And this is going to give us equation 3. Very good, equation 3. So what are we to do here? Now what we have to do here is because what we have to do here is to find the inverse demand function. We are going to be and the inverse demand function is just a big grammar. Okay, so what it simply means is that we should make the price the subject of the function or the equation. We should make the price, that's just what the inverse demand function means. So we are doing that because we have to express P in terms of Q. Alright, and okay, let me just do that so we understand what I'm saying. So here we have find the inverse of Q dt, okay, of this function. So what we have now is 2p equals 40 minus Q dt. Okay, so we are doing this now because we are going to equate this with the inverse of the initial supply equation 2 of this equation. And the reason we are doing so is because we have to express the demand function in terms of the quantity so that we'll be able to get an equilibrium quantity. Okay, the quantity is going to be the same, but the prices are not. And that is why we have to get an equilibrium Q, then insert the value where we are supposed to. Okay, so when you've done this, okay, we divide through by 2, we divide through by 2, so we have P equals 20 minus 0.5 Q dt. Okay, so what is the next thing we do? We have to look at it. The demand function is intersecting the old supply function, so we have to get the inverse supply function as well, the inverse supply equation too as well. Okay, then we equate them together because that is what the graph is saying. Okay, so we find the inverse supply function, equation or function anyhow. Okay, so we have Qs equals 3p minus 40. Okay, so this is going to give us Qs plus 40 equals 3p. So we divide through by 3, okay, so P equals 0.33 Qs plus 13.3. So this gives us equation 4. Okay, so what we have to do now is to equate equation 4 and equation 3, because that is what the graph is saying. Okay, so when we do that, we have this is for equation 3. Okay, so we have 20 minus 0.05 Q d tax, 0.5 Q d tax, okay, equals 0.33 Qs, okay, then plus 13.3. Okay, so we collect like times. We have 20 minus 13.3 to give us 0.33 Qs plus 0.5 Q dt. Or then at equilibrium, this is another equilibrium, at equilibrium, Q dt, okay, equals Qs, and that equals Q star. Okay, so we use Q star henceforth. So we have 0.33 Q star, then plus 0.5, so that will give us 0.83 Q star. We divide through by 0.83 by 0.83, and Q star here is going to give us 8.375. Q star here is equal to 8.375. So we can just approximate this to 8. Okay, so quantity is 8. The equilibrium quantity now has fallen from 20 to 8. Okay, so what then are we going to do? We insert the value of 8 into the initial supply function in order to get the price that producers are receiving now, and then we insert the value of 8 into the old demand function, which is equation 1, to get what the consumers will be paying now. So substitute Q star equals 8 in equation 1 and 2. equation 1 and 2. So for equation 1, we now have 8 equals 60 minus 2p. Okay, so this becomes 2p equals 60 minus 8, 2p 52. We divide through by 2, and p equals 26. So the price that this is the new price now. Okay, so we do the same thing for the supply function. So here we now have 8 equals 3p, then minus 40. Okay, so we have 8 plus 40, that's 48 equals 3p. We divide through by 3, and then p equals 16. So we can see that according to our theory from our previous classes, the prices that producers are receiving now is lower than what they were receiving at the equilibrium, and the prices that the consumers are paying now is higher than what the equilibrium was. Okay, and the gap being the tax revenue that the government generates. Now let's calculate our consumer surplus. Okay, so we have new points. This new intersection, we can call this F, and we just call this G. Okay, then for these these are supply curve. Okay, and this is the new producer surplus. Just this small triangle, it is smaller than what it was before because the price is now here instead of when it was here. So we can just name this R. I may name this T. Okay, so now for our consumer surplus equals area. So we may call it consumer surplus 2, area of triangle DFG. Triangle DFG. Okay, so CS2 equals half. Then what is the base now? So the base is the difference between here and here. When we trace it down, we have 0 and 8, which is 8. Okay, or let still 8 minus 0. Then into brackets. So what is the height? 30 minus 26. 30 minus 26. So CS2 equals half into bracket 8. Then 4. Okay, so CS2 equals 16. So our new consumer surplus is 16. So what then is our new producer? Our producer surplus now, which we call PS2, equals area of triangle SRT. Okay, and that is half. Then the base is 8. Okay, the same thing. This take away this, which is 8 take away 0. So the distance is 8. Then the height is 16 take away 13. Okay, so this is half 8 into bracket 3, and so our PS2 equals 12. So we can see that so our total surplus now equals 16 plus 12. So total surplus has fallen from an incredibly high value, okay, into 28. So the imposition of tax has led to a drop in total surplus. Now this rectangle GFTR represents the tax revenue. Okay, so the tax revenue equals area of rectangle GFTR. Okay, so the area of a rectangle tax revenue now, let's name that tax revenue. Okay, let me just call it tax revenue equals the area of a rectangle is length times breadth. Okay, so what is our length? Our length is simply G. Okay, this seems to be longer. All right, so 26 minus 10. Okay, 26 minus 10, then multiplied by, okay, what is, okay, so the difference there is also 8. Okay, 8 minus 0. So our tax revenue equals 16 multiplied by 8. So which is equal to 8 times 6 is 48. 8 times 1 is 8, then 128. Our tax revenue now is 128. Alright, so we now have an isosceles triangle here, triangle FER, and that represents the deadweight loss, from tax imposition. It doesn't belong to the consumers anymore. It doesn't belong to the producers anymore. It doesn't even belong to the government. So it is a waste. It is a waste. All right. So our deadweight loss is calculated as area of triangle FER, okay, and that is giving us half base times height as well. Okay, so the base is the whole of this, 26 minus 16. Okay, the distance there, 26 minus 16, and multiplied by the height. So the height is simply from here to here, which is 8 and 20, and that is 12. Okay, 20 minus 8, so don't mind 20 minus 8. Okay, so now we have half into brackets 10. If I'm right, 26 minus, okay, go 10. Okay, then into bracket 12. Okay, 6, so this is equal to 60. So our deadweight loss is equal to 60. So because we have a deadweight loss, we see that this market allocation is inefficient. Alright, so the tax imposition on this market has rendered the market inefficient, because the markets, if the market forces were allowed to adjust incredibly the way they usually do, the equilibrium quantity would have been 20, where consumers and producers would have been better off than this new equilibrium position of 8. Okay, so that is about this video. In our next video, we'll be talking about the imposition of taxes on suppliers, on the supply. So watch out for that. If you have any questions concerning this class, please leave your questions in the comments box, and remember to like and subscribe to our channel for more updates.